he first used it as an appointment book, but then later on he made regular entries into the diary. And here you can see the front inside cover of the diary, and it says Office, Delhi, Residence, Vrindavan. I want to say something about the captain and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Pandya. They arranged, when they heard that the Swami is coming on board, they arranged with extra vegetables and fruits, and it was approximately 25 crew members, officers, engineers, cooks, and stewards, and so on. So here you can see the first day, the 13th of August, Prabhupada wrote in his diary. So this is the quote. Today at 9 a.m. I embarked on MB Jaladuta. The cabin is quite comfortable. Its owner's residence, and therefore the sitting room, the bedroom, the bath, and private are all equipped with first-class materials. So, let's make a little adjustment here. And then it's continuing. Prabhu, can you read that?
Friday the 13th. The ship started at 1:30 p.m. very slowly from the dock and reached near Botanical Garden and stopped at midstream of the Ganges till 11 p.m. and then turned towards the front and started. It is quite steady. I cannot understand in my cabin if it is all moving. I am so comfortable.
So here, thank you. So here we see George Dockyard in the center of Calcutta, and Prabhupada is mentioning the Botanical Gardens, beautiful place. They passed by that, and then they went downstream towards, it's called the Diamond Harbor. And Srila Prabhupada said that he writes in his diary, the ship stopped again at 3:30 a.m. near Diamond Harbor, and waited there for 8 hours. You can see here a photo from the Diamond Harbor. Now I want to show you a short video clip when Srila Prabhu was speaking about this first part of the journey. I made this I made an interview with Srila Prabhu in 2015, and because Prabhupada spoke about something about his journey together with him, so we can see here Srila Prabhu and hear him speak. It's short.
One thing was that when they first started off, according to his diary, he was quite comfortable. The Ganges was very calm. They had to kind of leave the docks and then go out into midstream and then wait for the right tide. So they kind of left they left in mid-morning, and then it was anchored out in midstream until about 11 o'clock at night, and then they properly set sail. And at least initially, Prabhupada had no difficulty. He said everything in the cabin was first class, because it was, used by the captain or, the owner. But that didn't last very long.
Can you hear when he speaks?
Yes.
Yes. So, Prabhupada wrote on the 40s, the ship started about 11 o'clock in the morning, majestically. So here we have 40s. And he wrote, the ship started about 11 o'clock. I do not feel any jerking whatsoever. is tilting on the ship and a little roaring also. And then it increased. So Prabhupada continued. I was vomiting tendencies, dizziness, and I felt uncomfortable the whole day and night. The sea would pull me all through. And now you can see how far they have reached on the 14th of August. And so Prabhupada on the 15th, he wrote, in the morning I woke up and felt a little better, but I felt no hunger. Took only a glass of lemon drink, but the head dizziness is continuing. At 3:30 or 10:30, I was in the captain's room, radio room, chatting with the officers. Srila Prabhupada was very social also on the ship. So he connected with the crew members. So the captain, he wrote, the captain advised me to take more solid food. And now we come to Sunday 15th. You can see the map here. Is the music too loud or? It's good?
Perfect.
Yes. Little lower? Little lower? So Prabhupada wrote, today early in the morning I saw almost 0-degree waves. So it's typical for the ocean, it's up and down, the weather. Prabhupada wrote on the 16th, yesterday night was also comfortable, and there was moonlight. Although I did not take my lunch, I took a little puff rice chilba with milk. In the morning there was sunshine, but after 11 the sea became more and more rough, showing fully waves from distance. After some time we experienced dark clouds and raining. You can see here. The sirens sounded on account of hazy, foggy vision to warn other ships coming from opposite direction. At 12 noon, it is raining heavily and the ship is stopping, moving occasionally, sounding the siren. There is constant sound of thunder and lightning. You can see here. And then Prabhupada wrote, from 12 noon, we are passing through cyclonic weather. So you can get a little experience of this here. The ship is tilting too much. I felt seasickness all day and night. There was a vomiting tendency. The sea was pulling me all through. So it's interesting because the captain, later on, he made an interview. One year old, he met the captain, and he was speaking about the weather. And this is a quote. We sailed out in the months of August, the rainy season. We went straight into the southwest monsoon. Naturally, the ship was rolling very much. So it was very tough weather conditions. And now Srila Prabhupada speaks about foggy weather.
So, when there is mist, kuasha, as soon as there is sunrise, immediately everything. Otherwise, it is very difficult to drive away the fog, the railway train. I've seen it also in the mid-ocean. Immediately there is fog and the ship immediately stops because there is danger of collision with other ships. At least the ship in which I was going to a country, Jaladuta, the captain, Mr. Pandey, he immediately used to stop in the mid-ocean and giving horn, boom. So that was danger, very dangerous. When the sea is rough, there is no fog. And as soon as the sea is not rough, there is fog. So whether you go this way, that way, there is music. Therefore, this word is called Dukkharam Vasasa.
That's Bhagavad Gita 8:15, Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. And that's the nature of this material world. And now we come into Tuesday the 70th, and we come to the south coast of Ceylon. It's interesting how Prabhupada in his diary he describes how he's observing its seemingly small details, but he wrote like this: 2 ships passed from the opposite side. And then he wrote, some daring fishermen were fishing in very small boats. And then he wrote, the captain informed me that within 6 hours we should reach the Colombo port. And then he wrote, at 2 p.m. afternoon, we have now turned to the northern front. And here you can see Prabhupada wrote. Can you please read?
Today I was better than other 3 days. At 3 p.m. the Colombo city became faintly visible from the ship. The color of water in the Indian Ocean is different from that of Bay of Bengal.
It's interesting how Prabhupada is observing the details, the colors, and so now it's an overview again. So here's the Colombo port in Sri Lanka. So Prabhupada continued, the ship reached the port at 4:30 p.m. That's afternoon. But the managing of Colombo port could not receive Jaladuta for lack of place. As you can see also more close up, there's Colombo. It is anchored on the shore, waiting to enter the port. Waited for 4.5 hours. At 9 p.m. the ship was escorted by the pilot and we entered the dockyard. And now there's a description of the Colombo port. You can also see here a photo from that. So Prabhupada is describing the Colombo port. There were many ships from various countries, both passenger and cargo ships. At night, the dockyard ship assumed a brilliant spectacle of profuse light. Next morning, that's now the Friday 18th, goods arrived near our ship. The management of Colombo port could not receive Jaladuta for want of place. And now we come into the 18th August. Matari, can you please read?
Today I felt quite normal and the seasickness completely removed them. I wanted to see the Colombo city, but I could not make any arrangements. The ship was standing at the midstream and did not like to go alone.
So now we get into Thursday, 19th of August. So Prabhupada wrote, in the morning, Captain Pandya was very kind to take me to shore in a motor launch, small motorboat. We dropped at Elizabeth Gate, and in the taxi went to the office of Narottam and Peer Company. The manager, Mr. Banka, received us very well. He arranged for me a good car to go around the city. And then Prabhupada said, I saw the Governor General House, as you can see, Parliament, the Town Hall, and Prabhupada said, one very nice seaside hotel. And Prabhupada also observed the city. He wrote, he passed through very nice clean roads and bazaars. The city appears to be very nice and clean. Captain Pandya, there was an interview with him I mentioned about that. And one thing he mentioned about Prabhupada, that he said he was really a person that he liked. And so he said, I took every opportunity to have the association of Prabhupada in Bordership. And when they stopped at different ports, they were going around, like here now, together. So now they're leaving Colombo. And we're starting for Cochin at 7 p.m. evening. And Prabhupada wrote, the ship ran for the whole night. Next day at 3 p.m. we reached the coast of Cochin. You can see here, southwest. The ship is standing on the coast of Cochin without entering the dock. Now we come to Janmashtami, which was celebrated aboard the ship. So Prabhupada, he wrote on Shri Krishna Janmashtami, today the captain arranged for a meeting on board the Jaladutta on account of Janmashtami day. And I spoke for an hour on the philosophy and teachings of Lord Sri Krishna. And the captain, he said, it was attended by all officers, engineers, and most of the crew. So he said it was like a regular Janmashtami program. So you have to imagine a good fortune for being in that crew. And Prabhupada also cooked for them, and he distributed prasadam. So this was actually taking place several times that Prabhupada gathered the crew on board the ship, and he spoke from Bhagavad Gita later, and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and distributed prasadam. So this was going on. So Prabhupada, his ticket was that he had also free meal, but he observed that they were also cooking fish and eggs and like that. So he just cooked everything for himself in his own cabin. And we can also see Srila Prabhupada cooking. So now we come to Cochin, and the books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, was reaching there, and they were loaded on board. There's Cochin Port. At 10 a.m. we are now in the dockyard of Cochin. It's Sunday, 22nd. And Prabhupada wrote, I saw my books, the Srimad Bhagavatam from Bombay, arrive in 5 cases. Here is the first canto, the 3 volumes. And Prabhupada wrote, the books were loaded on the ship at 4 p.m. It's interesting that in this interview with the captain, the interviewer asked, did Srila Prabhupada go and see his books sometimes on board the ship? And then the captain said that the books he kept in his cabin. It was a big cabin. It was the owner's residence. It was quite luxurious cabin and big. So he had all the 600 Srimad Bhagavatams in his cabin. And so the captain also said that the interviewer asked him, did he sometimes speak about the books and so on? And the captain said all the time. He was writing and speaking about these books and the mission and the philosophy. So now we come to next day here. Can you please read?
We started towards Red Sea on the western front at about 12:30 noon. The sky was almost clear and there was sunshine since the starting of the trip from Cochin Port.
Thank you. So here you can see also how far they reached. There's Cochin and now Arabian Sea. Now we come into this critical part where Prabhupada was very, very sick. And he wrote on the 24th, today at 1:30 p.m. I visited the river room and was informed we have gone 400 miles of the Indian coast. My seasickness is still continuing. I take my meals once a day, but today I couldn't take my full meal, although fasting yesterday was the Ekadashi, the day before. And now we get into the 25th. And here Prabhupada now stopped the writing for I think 1 week. We will follow in the map. Because he suffered 2 heart attacks. We come to that zone. But from here, Prabhupada didn't write anything all these days. I think around here he had his 2 heart attacks in the Red Sea. And then you see here 28. This is how far they have got, approximately 29s. And here on the 30s. So, but Prabhupada wrote one short thing before this, rain. There's words, rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. So really very, very difficult time. So now we can see here, I found this painting, Prabhupada's suffering on board the ship. But then on the 3rd night, after these 2 nights of heart attack, Srila Prabhupada had a dream. And the dream was that Krishna appeared in a boat in many, many forms, as we see here on this painting. And he was rowing a boat. And the message was that you are protected. You don't have anything to fear. I'm in charge of the ship. So here we can see the diary, and Prabhupada just made cross lines there, and you see here in the right corner he wrote, passed over a great crisis of the struggle for life and death. A separate statement has to be written on this crisis area.
Prabhu, can I ask a question? did they or he mention about what did he experience when he had the heart attack? Was it like very painful, or was there doctors available, and did they help him in any way?
No doctors were there.
Mm-hmm.
The captain and his wife, they were very concerned, and they were looking after him. So Prabhupada mentioned after 2 nights of these attacks, he mentioned to the captain that he actually wanted to write a will. Because he thought, if I now leave, what he has to know what to do with the books. Mainly was thinking about the books. So the captain mentioned that Prabhupada mentioned to him, he wanted to write the will. But it's interesting, then the 3rd night, he had that will, and then he didn't mention about it anymore. So it must be because he had that will. He felt protected and safe like that. And even the captain mentioned that Prabhupada was speaking about going back to India, that in Egypt, that he wanted to go to Cairo and then back to India. But then he had that dream, and then it seems like everything changed from that point. It's interesting. It's not there in the Prabhupada Lamrita, but because this interview I found with the captain, you get some little more inside information. Here's also a short now sound clip when Prabhupada is speaking about this dream, and you can see Prabhupada is just so humble. He don't want to make a big thing out of it. But it's Hari Sauri Prabhu is asking him, so you can hear.
Very great history. There were 2 days I had attacked in heart on the sea.
And you had a dream?
What was that, Srila? That is. The dream was I must come here.
There was some instruction that you got.
The dream was that Krishna, in his many forms, was blowing the roll. I always start blowing the roll. Yeah. And when I arrived in Boston, I wrote that poem.
The poetry Prabhupada is mentioning about, we come to that a little later. Makina Bhagavatarma, very wonderful poem. But I can really feel Prabhupada's mode that he really don't want to speak about it. That was very special appearance of the Lord, but he has very humbly expresses that the message was, I must come here. I must come here to America. So that's Prabhupada's humility is involved. And here we see now 1st of September, they reach to Suez. 31st, and here is Suez. And so then we have the Suez Channel. The first Port Suez is here, Wednesday the 1st of September. So then they were entering the Suez Channel. This presentation is quite long, so I don't know if we should have a little break or should we continue a little more, or so the first Prabhupada, the only thing he wrote was Port Suez in his diary, and I was just reading about this Suez Channel. It's quite interesting. It's a man-made waterway in Egypt. It was opening, you see here, 1869, and as we know, it connects the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. So the length is 193 kilometers, man So it's one of the most important shipping routes in the world. So they want to go around Africa like that. So Prabhupada here, he wrote on the second Suez Channel and Port Said. Port Said you see here, so the 2nd of September, Prabhupada he wrote in his diary. Can you please read?
We started from Port Said today at about 1 p.m. The city is nice. It has long, narrow, neat and clean roads with lofty buildings. While passing the near point of Suez towards the Mediterranean Sea, the city is clearly seen. Although in the desert, in the city, all varieties of vegetables available. There is also a marine drive like Bombay Chowpatty Beach. I could see a good park in the city.
So it's again interesting how Prabhupada is he's observing everything. Being a Nitya Seva coming from the spiritual world, but very much aware of what's going on. So now we're entering the Mediterranean Sea, and here on the 4th of August towards September, there was a rehearsal emergency.
There was a rehearsal for emergency. We all prepared with belt on the body, and the lifeboat was tested whether they were in order. There were 2 boats with the capacity to load 120 persons.
So Prabhupada was just going along with this. And
How many persons were there in the boat, in the ship?
around 25 altogether.
In the evening, the sky was cloudy and they expected foggy weather. At midnight, we passed Malta and Sicily, and by God's grace, it was all right throughout the night.
And then it continues. The 6th here. And now Srila Prabhupada describes something about his cooking. Prabhu, you want to read?
Today I have taken khichdi and curry. It was tasteful, and I took them with relish. And this gave me a push forward to get renewed strength little by little.
And here they come. Prabhupada observes the Algerian coast. This is the Badashi. You can see here.
Today on Badashi observed the best atmospheric condition on the Mediterranean Sea. All along we have seen the Algerian coast.
And now when they come close to Gibraltar, suddenly there is fog. Very young. Natalie?
Today at about 8 o'clock in the morning and near about Gibraltar, we had a first experience of fog impediments. It was all dark around the ship, and she stopped moving completely. She was whistling now and then to protect herself from other unseen ships being collided with.
So now they started about 11 again. And we started about 11 again. At about 2:30 p.m. we passed over Gibraltar port, ending at the lighthouse. Here you can see the lighthouse. And so you can see Prabhupada wrote there. And the other side is Spanish Morocco. There is a regular ferry steamer service. It's about 7 miles wide across. And then Prabhupada, he wrote, "We are in the Atlantic." So that's the last part now. And so Tuesday 9th, Prabhupada wrote, "Till 4 o'clock afternoon, we have crossed over the Atlantic Ocean for 24 hours. The whole day was clear and almost smooth. I'm taking my food regularly and got some strings to struggle. There is slight lurching of the ship and I'm feeling slight headache. The nectarian of life is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the source of my vitality." So he's reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Bengali copy. He's bringing with him. And now it's next day here, Friday the 10th, Prabhupada is expressing in a very wonderful way his separation from Vrindavan. His longing for Vrindavan. Here's his Radha Damodar temple, or his room at the Radha Damodar. And so you can see Prabhupada what he wrote.
Today the ship is flying very smoothly. I feel today better, but I am feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan and my lords of Sri Govinda, Gopinath, Radha Damodar. The only solace is Sri Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which I am tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's Leela.
I have left Bharatbhumi just to execute the order of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but I have taken up the risk just to carry out the order of His Divine Grace. I depend fully on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan.
Thank you. Saturday 11th, Prabhupada wrote, "Today the ship ran on very smoothly. The sky was clear and there was sunshine all day. And then they observed the Azore Group Islands." Interesting islands, you see, almost in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's 9 islands. Maybe you heard about them.
I've been there.
You have been there?
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Very.
Very beautiful. So it's under the Portugal Republic. And when you were there?
5-6 years ago.
So I read it's about 250,000 people living there. So it's quite something. And Prabhupada wrote there was again rehearsal for lifeboat sailing at 4:30 p.m. There was a rehearsal of the fire brigaders also. And then he speaks about it was a very nice moonshine in the night. Can you read?
At night there was a profuse moonlight on the ocean and considerable lodging also. But did not affect me very much as it used to be doing the Caribbean Sea. The Atlantic Ocean is more kind to me and all other seas so far we have crossed over. It's all Lord Krishna's grace.
So now 12th Sunday, we're coming closer to Boston, 5 days more. And so Prabhupada is appreciating the captain and also his wife, Mrs. Pandya. Prabhupada says a very intelligent and learned lady, and she was into astrology. She was an astrologer, so he said she has foretold about my future. So here's the captain and his wife on this drawing. So Prabhupada wrote, "Thanks to her prediction, all blessings of Lord Krishna for her." He was very pleased with her. And the crisis which I supposed to have crossed crisis, if I have crossed the crisis, then that is the goodwill of Lord Krishna, my friend and philosopher. He's mentioning Lord Krishna as his friend and philosopher. In the evening there was too much virtue. I felt a bit seasickness. I could not take my food properly. A little sweet was accepted with some relish. So now, Monday 30th.
Today is the 32nd day of our journey from Calcutta. After midnight yesterday, the lurching decreased and I felt relief. In the morning also I could not take my breakfast properly.
And I just continue here. Then I cooked kichari. It appeared to be delicious, and I was able to take some food. And now Prabhupada is mentioning about he wrote two famous poems on board the ship, and now it's the first one here. Today I have disclosed my mind to my companion, Lord Shri Krishna. There is a Bengali poem made by me today in this connection. And here you can see the original script Prabhupada wrote in Bengali. So it's named Prayer to Lord, the Lotus Feet of Lord Krishna. And what I did now is Indradyumna Swami Maharaj, he made a very nice music to this, and he's speaking the poetry. So I put in the text there, so we can follow the poem by hearing the music. Prayers to the Lotus Feet of Krishna.
Brothers, I emphatically say to you, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Garanga, the son of Mother Sachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotion to Krishna at different places throughout the world. By his strong desire, the holy name of Lord Garanga will spread throughout all the countries of the Western world. In all the cities, towns, and villages on the earth, from all the oceans, seas, rivers, and streams, everyone will chant the holy name of Krishna. As the vast mercy of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conquers all directions, a flood of transcendental ecstasy will certainly cover the land. When all the sinful, miserable living entities become happy, the Vaishnava's desire is then fulfilled. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to accomplish this mission, I am not worthy or fit to do it. I am very fallen and insignificant. Therefore, O Lord, now I am begging for your mercy, so that I may become worthy, for you are the wisest and most experienced of all. If you bestow your power, by serving the spiritual master, one attains the absolute truth. One's life becomes successful. If that service is obtained, then one becomes happy and gets your association due to good fortune. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant, Narada Muni, kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How can I leave his service? O Lord Krishna, you are my eternal companion. Forgetting you, I have suffered the kicks of Maya, birth after birth. If today the chance to meet you occurs again, then I will surely be able to rejoin you. O dear friend, in your company, I will experience great joy once again. In the early morning, I will wander about the cowherd pastures and fields, running and frolicking in the many forests of Braja. I will roll on the ground in spiritual ecstasy. Oh, when will that day be mine? Today that remembrance of you came to me in a very nice way. Because I have a longing, I call to you. I am your eternal servant, and therefore I desire your association so much. O Lord Krishna, except for you, there is no other means of success.
So, Prabhupada is writing about how the captain thinks it's remarkable how calm the Atlantic Ocean is. And this is Monday the 30th. So, Prabhupada wrote, the captain told me that he had never seen such calmness of the Atlantic. Never. I said, it is Lord Krishna's mercy. Captain's wife asked me to come back with them so they might have again experienced such a calm ocean. If the Atlantic would have shown its usual face, perhaps I would have died with Lord Krishna taking charge of the ship. And now the 14th. Today, on the 33rd day of our journey, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw the sky cloudy with dim moonlight. At 10 o'clock, when I was talking with the chief engineer, Mr. Travers, he also told me that he had never seen such a calm and quiet Atlantic Ocean. He said usually there was typhoon, cyclone, fog, etc., at least for some days. I said, it's all Lord Krishna's grace. Now, Wednesday, 15th.
Today, 34th day of our journey. As usually, I rise up at 3 a.m. and when I went to the veranda, I saw the sky almost clear. It was moonshine, and although the wind from southeast was strong, the ocean was clear vision and the ship was passing smoothly.
And then Prabhupada will say something about what he was reading. I was engaged in reading Kalya Daman Lila, Krishna Bhagavatam, especially the prayers. He just mentioned that in his diary.
Today is the 35th day of our journey. In the morning, the atmosphere was fairly cleared, and the ship was plying very smoothly. The first officer also told me that they never had such experience of the Atlantic Ocean, and he described the good luck to me. I said, yes, it is all Krishna's grace, because due to my severe type of seasickness, he has himself taken charge of the ship. The Lord is rowing the oars. We shall certainly reach the American port safely. The whole day was clear sunshine.
There was one last impediment, so at 4 p.m. Prabhupada explains.
But at 4 p.m. the sky all of a sudden became foggy. The ship stopped completely at about 6 p.m. because of dense fog. Be Lord Krishna pleased to get out of this fog. By the grace of Lord Krishna, the fog was cleared after 2 to 3 hours and the ship started. The whole night was non-disturbing, and today, on the 36th day of our journey, we reached safely at Boston Port at
you can see the Commonwealth Pier, where they got the dock. We are now on the dockyard of Boston, and at 10 a.m. the custom officers and others came on board the ship. So Srila Prabhupada has to pass through U.S. immigration and custom in Boston, and he only had $7. That's what, and he got his $7 by selling one Srimad Bhagavatam set to the captain. So that's how it started. So you can see here Srila Prabhupada's passport. His visa allowed him a 3-month stay, and official stamped to indicate his expected date of departure. And then Captain Pandya invited Srila Prabhupada for a walk into Boston. The captain needed to do some shopping. So now it's the first experience Srila Prabhupada has in the West. You see photo of Boston and the Boston port. It's interesting. It's a very it's a student place. They have around 250,000 students in Boston. They have Harvard University, the oldest university in the US. And so this is now 65. Just 4 years later, Prabhupada, he was speaking. It was on the 7th of May 1969. He spoke at the Harvard Divinity School. So just 4 years later from his arrival here. So they took a walk. You can see this drawing. So Satsvarup Maharaj, the author of Prabhupada Lilamrita, he wrote, they walked across a footbridge into a busy commercial area with old churches, warehouses, and office buildings, bars, bookshops, nightclubs, and restaurants. And Captain Pandya, he mentioned in this interview we spoke about that they visited a big department store in Prabhupada. I've never seen anything like that. Big department store, and there was an escalator. This is what we call Swedish road. So, and Prabhupada never seen anything like this. And he asked, what do you do with this? And 3 years after his arrival, Srila Prabhupada took his disciples to the exact place where they were going to arrive. And here you see this photo, famous photo. Prabhupada is walking here with his disciples. He's showing here, I arrived, and so on. So also in 1968, the first temple was established in Boston, ISKCON Center. And now, 2018, there is one historical sculpture you can see here outside the temple. So it says there, they had to struggle for getting permission, but after 2 years they got that permission. They could have a sculpture or statue of Prabhupada outside the temple. And so it says there, everyone can read, September 17th, 1965, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada arrived by cargo ship in India, the shrine of Krishna's philosophy and culture with the world. And it's also, this is from his prayers, somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it's up to you to make me a successful or failure as you like. And after the walk, Prabhupada came back to the boat, and there he wrote this second poem, Markina Bhagavatarma, and here you see also the original manuscript in Bengali. Maikini Bhagavatarma means preaching Krishna consciousness in the West or in America. I have a short now film clip again with our Srila Prabhu. He speaks about this poem, Maikina Bhagavatarma.
Prabhupada's inner feeling, spiritual realization, his dependency on his spiritual master and Krishna. Prabhupada told me in December of 1976, when we were in Bombay, that I never went to the West to become successful. He said, I went there due to this utsaha, enthusiasm. He said, I was living in Vrindavan. If it were not for this enthusiasm to carry out the instructions of my spiritual master, I would never have come. So that was his motivation, was not to achieve something necessarily in the West. He had no idea what would be achieved, that he was leaving to Krishna. And he was just making himself an instrument for his spiritual master and Krishna to work through. And what would come, that was up to them, not up to him. His business was just to surrender. So you see that mood of complete surrender and dependence that's being expressed by Prabhupada in those poems that he wrote just when they first arrived in Boston. He wrote one off the ship there. In 1976, one of the devotees, Jai Sachinandana, he was studying Bengali and he was working for the BBT. So he sent a translation of Prabhupada's poem. Prabhupada had written, I think, one in Bengali, and he translated that. And Prabhupada was very pleased with that. And he gave names for the poems, Maikini Bhagavatar, preaching Krishna consciousness in the West, and then the other one, a prayer to Lord Krishna. So later on, a few months later, in early June of 1976, Prabhupada came to Los Angeles, where the BBT was there. He met with Jai Sachinandana, and Jai Sachinandana came into Prabhupada's room and actually sang Prabhupada's prayers to him, accompanied by the harmonium, and somebody else had, I think, Mridanga and Kartans. Prabhupada was very happy. He liked listening to it, but he declined to sing it himself. He liked to hear his disciples sing it. And then a few days later, in Los Angeles, there was the premiere, the world premiere, of Yadavar's new film, Spiritual Frontier. And that was a documentary-style film about New Vrindavan and, simple living, high thinking. So it showed all the features of New Vrindavan. So that was premiered in Los Angeles. And when Prabhupada came down for the show, they just had arati. There's about 500 devotees there from all over the West Coast. And then Prabhupada was sitting on his Vyasa, and they projected it onto the wall directly opposite his Vyasa. So when Prabhupada came in, and after offering his obeisances, he sang on the Vyasa. Jai Sachinandana then led the whole devotee assembly in the singing of Prabhupada's prayers. So he really liked that. It was very nice. But apart from that, I don't really recall hearing him say very much about them. Well, Prabhupada did say that those prayers should be put into our songbook. And he did say that all of the devotees should learn how to sing them. So I don't know whether that's really been activated in this con, but it was a request by Prabhupada that all the devotees learn how to sing the poems that he's written.
So there are several many shlokas, and I just choose 4 of them. So you can see here. Natalie, can you?
Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it.
So this is just after Prabhupada returned from his walk, where he kept in Boston, so that's like his impressions that he's expressing like this. So we have a second here. Matane.
How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, but I am powerless to do so on my own.
You can really see the mode, the perfect mode for spreading Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada feeling completely helpless. How can they understand this message? So it says praying for mercy.
Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure, as you like.
Oh Lord, I'm just like a pot in your hands. So if you have brought me dance, then make me dance. Make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like.
This last shloka is very famous.
Yes.
And then Prabhupada signed it like this. Signed the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, HG Mukunda Prabhu, on board the ship Yaladuta, Commonwealth Pier in Boston, United States of America, 18th of September 1965. So it's interesting that 8 years later from this, when Prabhupada wrote this poem, in this helpless mode, praying, crying for mercy, 8 years later, he came to Sweden, 1973 in September, and at that time he had managed to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world in 8 years. So now it's becoming to the last part here, where they go to New York. Today is the 7th day of our journey. At 4 p.m. we left Boston port for New York. And Prabhupada wrote that in the morning I had a telephone talk with Mr. Gopal Agarwal in Butler. He said his man will receive me at New York and take me to the bus station. And here we can see the journey from Boston up there at a point and to New York. It took approximately 20 hours, this ride. And now they arrive.
Today is the 30th day of our journey, and we reach New York port at 12:30 p.m., about 3 hours later than the scheduled time.
So Prabhupada, he saw the Manhattan skyline, the Empire State Building, all these skyscrapers, the Statue of Liberty, as we see here, and then Yaladuta docked at the Brooklyn Pier at the 17th Street, New York, New York. So Prabhupada wrote about his first impressions. He noticed great material opulence on one side. Seeing all these skyscrapers and was amazing. But he wrote that people seemed restless and also unhappy, despite external prosperity. Now, such Srila Maharaj, he wrote Srila Prabhupada a little idea what to do when he walked off the ship at 1 o'clock in the daytime. And he said, I did not know whether to turn left or right. So he had to wait for a bus. He was escorted to the bus station. He had to wait for the bus for 4 hours. And so it left 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was this kind of Greyhound buses, maybe you heard about it. Long distance buses. You can see here photo of classical Greyhound buses. So he was sponsored by a family in Butler, Pennsylvania. I just want to mention something about, because I was the first contact Prabhupada with the American culture. I think it's very significant and interesting how he dealt with that. So Mr. Agarwal, the father of this man who sponsored him, Prabhupada met a few months before, 9 months earlier. He was a Mathura businessman. And he just mentioned Prabhupada by the way that he wanted to go to America. And then Mr. Agarwal, he mentioned my son is in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then Prabhupada said that, why don't you ask Gopal to sponsor me? As he said to many, many others, he has mentioned it like that. So then in March 1965, pleasantly surprised, the Ministry of External Affairs contacted Prabhupada, and he didn't know what was it about. So he went there, and they showed the form signed by Mr. Gopal Agarwal in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he declared that he would bear the expenses of Srila Prabhupada during his stay in America. So Prabhupada was very happy about that. It was unexpected. So here you see Gopal Agarwal. A few years ago, he left this world. This is in his old age. At this time, he was in the 30s, and his wife also, Sally. Sally was an American girl, lady, and they met. He was there studying, and just to make a little.
And what about books?
Yes.
How he managed to get out from both the books and where he put it?
Yeah, I couldn't find out these details. I was thinking about myself. But he brought some books with him to Butler, Pennsylvania.
The 700 books is
600 books.
600.
That's quite a lot. So probably there was some arrangements, they were stored in New York, part of it. But he brought some of them to Butler, Pennsylvania. Was it distributed books?
90 banana boxes.
600 books. Quite a good number. One pallet of Bhagavad Gita is 750 books.
Yes.
They're a little thicker.
We're interested to know about these details.
Yeah, maybe it was some arrangements anyways.
So, can we go a few more minutes? Just to the end of this pastime in Butler, Pennsylvania. So on the bus, the only thing he had as a little prasad was some ship rice. He took that on the bus, and so then he came to Pennsylvania. And Gopal Gopal Agarwal, he was waiting with his Volkswagen bus. He had 2 children, smaller children. So he took the luggage from Prabhupada and they drove 50 kilometers to Butler. So they arrived in around 4 o'clock in the morning. And today the family, they were established in good social circle. They had a little space in their little small house there. So they arranged that Prabhupada would stay in. It's called the IMCA, Young Men Christians Association Hostel. So that was a few blocks away. So Prabhupada stayed there. And so Mrs. Agarwal, she was very much aware of that people, and when they saw him, they would start to speak about who is this, and there were going to be rumors around them and so on. So she had an idea to deal with this, which was quite intelligent. She presented that to Prabhupada and she said that I want to contact a local newspaper, and I have this Indian Swami here, and would that be interesting for you to write about it? And they thought so. So they came there and they interviewed Prabhupada. And in this way, everyone got to know about him and get the clear, right information. So Prabhupada, he was smiling when he heard about this. He appreciated it. So here you can see on the right side, Prabhupada is holding the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here's the newspaper, Butler Eagle. So it's a photographer from the Butler Eagle newspaper who took this photograph with the Bhagavatam in the living room of the other walls. So because of that, we have a beautiful picture. And so it said in the article, I just read something very short. In fluent English, the vote of Hindu cult visit the West. That was the headline. And the second headline, Ambassador of Bhakti Yoga. The article began, he is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, a messenger from India to the people of the West. The other words thought, end quote. It's a little more here. The article referred to Srila Prabhupada, although the article referred to Srimad Bhagavatam as biblical literature like Christian literature, and to Srila Prabhupada as a learned teacher. So they were very respectful. So the Agarwals, they thought he had come to America to finance his books. They thought like that. And that was all. He was not interested to get followers and so on. He was just coming to be able to get some sponsors for his books.
Make business.
Yes. This was like
Because in that time it was common, it's many yogis, and like in this movie about Srila Prabhupada said that it's in that time it wasn't new that the yogis is this Radha Krishna doctor was preaching or doing something in New York, became very rich.
Yeah. I want to show you now a short interview with Sally Agarwal. I think it was made in the 1980s. She also left this world. And I think it's touching because she really appreciates Prabhupada from the heart. You can see her and hear her for some description about
Bhaktivedanta Swami first stays in Butler, Pennsylvania, in the home of a friend's son, Gopal Agarwal, and his wife Sally.
The Swami was a friend of my husband's father, Mr. Agarwal, in Agra, India. And he asked me to sponsor the Swami, and that's what I did. And that's why he came to our house in the middle of the night one night. He stayed with us for a month in Butler. And I learned, over the time, I learned to love him as I would a father-in-law. He was a very sensitive and kindly type of person. He was indeed one of the most unusual men I've ever known in my life. The Swami came with so few possessions. He came with the clothes he had on his back. He had a typewriter, and he had his books. And he had a bag of cereal. Imagine coming to a country on the other side of the world with so little, and yet he came with so much in himself. The Swami brought a pan with him in which he cooked his food, and in fact cooked our lunch too. Our little boy was only 6 months old when he came, and the Swami was there when Bridge first stood, and he laughed and laughed to see him stand up. When he left, he was just oceanic. He just seemed to take in the entire universe when he left, and he laughed a lot. I enjoyed my association for that 1 month with him about as much as I've enjoyed anything in my life.
It's really coming from the heart, what he says, that she was really touched by his association, and she got so much mercy. Just imagine, and they had quite some correspondence, Prabhupada, after this, and he was really very warm and encouraging towards her. And here we see how Prabhupada, he cooked for them lunch every day. Just managing to prasad. And it was such a jolly atmosphere. Prabhupada was very, like she said, easy person to have as a guest. And Prabhupada himself, he came up with the idea that they should have an open house with 6 and 9 every evening in their home. They accepted that. So what happened was that between 6 and 9, people could just come and meet him. And a lot of people came. And Prabhupada was just so charming and speaking with everyone. And one thing is mentioned, how he always remembered their names. After meeting a person once, he always remembered their names. And he was so personal and kind and loving. And he also spoke philosophy. So for him it was like a testing ground. He saw the American ways, the American culture. He also saw that people, they had some interest. They were curious. And they wanted to hear from him, and they wanted to meet him. So that was like very important for him. And then he observed like they had a vacuum cleaner at home. They had never seen anything like that. Or the washing machine and these things. And Prabhupada seemingly he was very fascinated by it. And in one sense he was, but he had this very, very clear mission, and he was thinking about how to make a revolution in the consciousness of people. He was planning for that. And they were amazed how intelligent he was. They were in a quite intellectual circle, and while he was, so people who were discussing philosophy and different views of life and like that, they were so amazed. He was so intelligent, so sharp, and she said that he was the easiest guest because as soon as she had to do other things, he was just chanting, and he was completely happy, just chanting japa. So, like if you have a guest and you feel some obligation, you have to, sit to their well-being, that they're comfortable and so on. But she had felt completely relaxed and proper. He was just completely happy, and so it was just such a nice atmosphere. So thank you very much for your part of our history. Prabhupada went through. So our Krishna arranged that he had to go through this struggle, this journey, and it's very special. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Anything you want to discuss or comments or some thoughts?
So, how did he arrange for his stay in Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh?
This was in Butler. He came first to Pittsburgh with a bus, and there Gopal picked him up and they drove to Butler. So he came to Pittsburgh just for changing to going to Butler.
But did he pre-arrange his meeting with the Agarwals from India, or?
Yes, that was already arranged. So when Prabhupada came to New York, Gopal had arranged that someone met him at the boat and took him to the bus station. So that was arranged. And then it was arranged that they would take care of him for 1 month or a few weeks. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming.
He needed that sponsorship, or else he couldn't be in India.
Yes, right. That was
Somebody has to. Same now also. Somebody comes here, we have to show that we will host them and cover all expenses.
Yes. Something else?
So in this journey, he was only at one place and then he went back to India?
Actually, when he was later on, he came to New York in the autumn there, October, and it was quite some struggle. And he thought that many times he was thinking about going back because it was not very much response in the very beginning. So he went regularly to this shipping company and checking when the next boat is coming in later. But then in the spring of '66, things started to happen, and then he stayed. And then I think in 1967 he went back to India for some time. And then he started to travel all around the world.
It's interesting to see these books because there is some of these books in Norway, in these boxes.
Really?
Yeah, and they were in the university, in the library, in the university in Oslo. And Rukmini, Rukmini and Kalya. Yeah. They found they had an exhibition of exotic books from the Far East. And then they were looking, and suddenly there were this from 1965, which Prabhupada printed, was there. So she immediately borrowed them. Will never be given back. They're in their home now. I've seen them.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Something last thing we could bring up. It's also one interesting story. On the way to New York, Prabhupada actually was invited by Professor Larson. He was a professor at the Slippery Rock State College in Pennsylvania. You can see here. And Prabhupada he was invited, or the professor read about this in the Butler Eagle, this local magazine, that they had a Swami in Butler. So he called them up and he asked, could you come to my university students? And Prabhupada was happy to do that. So that was the first time Prabhupada spoke to students, university students. He gave a couple of lectures.
So that was the first class he had in America? There?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It was about 100 students who he had gathered.
It was not recorded?
No. First, the professor said he was singing Hare Krishna softly for some time. And then he spoke and answered a question about 50 minutes. And so also he then got some idea about how the message from the young, this message will be understood. If they were interested, and they were. But then, when Prabhupada was leaving the university, he went to the library, and he wanted to distribute the Bhagavatam. But then, amazing, so the lady there, she said, oh, you already have these books. So what then happened is that the American consulate in New Delhi, they bought some sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then they sent it out to different universities, and one of the universities was in Pennsylvania. So they already was there. And so it's like significant how Srimad Bhagavatam came and Srila Prabhupada came together. Actually, Bhagavatam came before Prabhupada there for the university. So I think the end here. Thank you for your patience and coming for this presentation.
His Grace Mukunda Prabhu ki
Jai.